someone can show up and say, I built it and it works. And they're maybe not an engineer. And then what happens is what I call the great search for the asterisk. And the asterisk comes after the product. And it's like, but it's not real, or it won't,
Right.
it's not good. It can't go to production. It's not blah, blah, blah. But then if an engineer gets involved, they can be like, well, it's running on the Postgres database and it's got a nice React front end. I don't necessarily love the auth model, but we could switch in OAuth. And suddenly in like 3 steps, you could have a really viable application that people are excited about using, and it might have happened in a week instead of 6 months, right? And so now that sounds really positive and exciting in a funny way, but it's also incredibly destabilizing. And so people throw out the asterisks, and the asterisks could be security, it could be design quality, it could be product. I have some, everybody has some. Everybody's like, well, hold on a minute. That's not exactly what I would call software. It's I can't believe it's not software is sort of the name of this moment. And I think that SVP is confused about their loyalties, confused about what they're hearing. And I think a lot of managers are like very happy for everyone else to use AI and fantasizing about how it could replace certain people and functions, and incredibly confident that it would never replace them because they go to all those meetings.
How are you dealing with just the whiplash of the moment? We were supposed to do this interview a couple months ago, and then I had a dental emergency that day, so we didn't. So here we are today. And in that period, the new version of Claude Code came out, and worlds are changing, dynamics are changing. Like, how are you coping with the rapid change?
It's freaking hard. Like, it's just really hard. Like, everything's really confusing, and things that you thought were kind of inviolable are actually yielding. And then there are ideas that are kind of wackadoodle, like this, which work, which is just put in a loop and tell it to test and it'll build. Like, code is really tricky. I don't want to read a novel created by AI, right? I don't want 300 pages. And actually, somebody just sent me like some big pile of AI output because they were trying to prove a point. And it's just unreadable. After 10 seconds. But that's not code. Code runs on the computer. And so what do I do actually is you got to stop fighting. The way I think about it, I'm in a medium-sized organization, okay? Like, we're little. Actually, we're little org. We're dozens of people all in. And I think of us as a tugboat, and there are enormous cruise ships that are just sailing around. And what does a tugboat do? A tugboat makes sure you get safely into port and make sure people can get on and off the boat.
Okay.
And that is, I see the big LLM companies as cruise ships. They're not going to talk to you. They're going to drop a huge pile of undifferentiated features built up from LLM capabilities that no one's ever thought about before. The things that their tools do, they don't even know. And somebody's got to be in there to just kind of nudge it safely and let people get on and off without falling into the ocean. And so coming back to that, right? So what is a mission? A mission is, this change is happening. Some of it is good. Some of it is bad. Much of it's bad, frankly. I personally feel responsible to guide people towards the value that is in the world right now and to try to find ways to get that value. We had a big not-for-profit come in. And, what's funny too is when you get outside of software people or creative industries people, doctors love AI. They love it because it summarizes notes for them.
Yeah, they can go to sleep a little earlier.
Literally. They call it pajama time. We've talked about it on the podcast before. And then so not-for-profits love AI because they're caught with Salesforce or their custom CRM, and they kind of can't get that next step. And what they might have is let's say $5,000, $6,000 a month, right? Which is a lot to them. And it's not a lot to Salesforce. It's not a lot to a legacy agency, but it is actually enough that you could probably use these tools to put together a pretty good solution, deploy it somewhere, and keep an eye on it for them.
Yeah.
And so they're getting that, and they're going wait a minute, this cause of friction where I've glued together a world from 4 SaaS products, and I've got data flying all over the place, and my people are always kind of yelling at me, and I have to get the report done for my funders and so on. They're maybe that goes away.
Yeah.
Could it go away? And so they're reaching out going hey, what happens now? And so I think if you just don't look too far into the future, but just sort of focus on what is giving people pause now, there's going to be an enormous amount of stuff to do.
Yeah. So the good is that people that never could afford or would have reason to build custom software, now they can have that. That's a big part of that.
People see a lot of the bad structural stuff, but that's a kind of localized miracle because it's people who are literally, I had somebody not too long ago just be like, I can feed more hungry people if I had this, if my CRM did this, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, your CRM could do that.
Yeah. I know you've been vibe coding a lot lately. You wrote about it in the New York Times. You're on the train. You pop up on the Manhattan Bridge, and I guess you get connectivity and things change for you, which is a fun visual that I could certainly get around. And you said that some of the work that you did or you could do over the weekend, you would have ordinarily charged like $300,000 or more for, and you're seeing the faces of former employees of yours. Like, again, how do you sort of cope with the cognitive dissonance there of this is exciting, this is scary?
It's exciting and scary. You know what I mean, it's,
Yeah.
I think, let me just say like very clearly, like I'm stating it, but I can't resolve it. And I go deeper on this, which is like one of the things I worry and think about, not worry, but like I really think a lot and spend a lot of time working on climate. And now we talk about Trump and we talk about AI in our culture, but we've forgotten about the climate,
Yeah.
right? I know this goes really meta really quickly, but I actually doubled down on the anxiety. I'm just sort of like, wait a minute, these things are happening. They seem to be happening. A lot of people really hate that they're happening. Some people are really excited. Some people are making tens or hundreds of billions of dollars, and some are losing their jobs. At the same time, these other things are happening in the world that we've turned away from. And like, how is this all going to fit together? What's it
Yeah.
going to look like? And I don't, like, again, people really want answers right now to everything. And it's a very answer-free world. Like things that we took for granted, like democracy, are just kind of up for grabs. And it's scary as shit. Like, it's just not cool.
Or competence.
Yeah, that's right. I would love us to talk and not scream. Like, we're just kind of in a screamy zone. And I did that piece for the Times. And I'm just like, no matter what I say, no matter how I edit it, no matter what I do, I'm getting yelled at. It's a great Achewood cartoon. I put it on Blue Sky. It was just like, one of the characters is just going like, guess who's got yelled at? And it's just like, or who just got yelled at, and sort of like.
Do you want to, for those who didn't read the piece, you want to just quickly summarize or share some of what was in there because I found it to be pretty nuanced. You're wrestling with things. That's what you talked about.
Yeah, nobody reads below the headline for real. Like nobody does. Or they read with one particular, like people were upset about I didn't offer detail on climate. Right. But it's kind of unfair as a writer that you are expected to cover absolutely every base and every aspect of a piece. But really what happened is the Times called me up and they said, we think there's something about vibe coding. And I had this real sense of like, you're sitting at your living room and like the helicopter lands outside and they're like, we need you back in, Ford. And I'm just like, no, man, please. Not after what happened to Cindy. And she was a good woman, but we need you back in. And so like,
one last heist.
Yeah, one more. We just need you. No, God, please, no. But look, get those keyboard fingers moving. And so the piece is me just trying to explain vibe coding. I'll tell you what it really was fundamentally for me. I think that I'm a person because of what is code and other things who is associated with explaining the technology industry to a larger audience and trying to make it legible. And this is an absolutely fundamental change. And there have been many moments, and I get why people want to believe or are pretty sure why it's not going to matter as much as I seem to think, but I just can't look away from it. I got novelists sending me their vibe coded tools, and they're like in C++. Like it's not trivial what's happening. It's not small, and it's scary. And so I was like, let me do my thing. Let me do my jazz hands, and let me tell people about what's coming. And sort of like tell them that I think it's real. And that is enough to infuriate everybody. But that was what the piece was about. It was just like, please pay attention because I think it's a big deal and it could be really interesting. But it also, and not too long ago, you saw like Jack Dorsey fire half of Square, right? And it's like, or Block or whatever the hell it's called. And sort of.
AI is a good foil right now.
Yeah.
That's my take on that. I mean, anti-overhired and the rest of it, but like, AI washing, I like that term wherever it came from. I think it's a good one right now.
I mean, I think I go back and forth because I think that guy is funny because he reads a gestalt and just sort of makes wacky decisions, but they seem to work out really well for him. And sort of like, I think you're right. I think, look, it's Block. I think they probably have like 9 million crypto projects floating around and there was all sorts of stuff going on. All the thing does is literally make money. And so there's this huge pile of cash And everybody's like, oh, we got this big pile of cash. And what do? You have 5 different teams working on similar projects. And it's just, this happens with every big blobby org. And he went, you know what's funny is you're also going to have, and I'm sure he sees that. And he's like, oh, that's just how big orgs are. And he's like, yeah, what's weird is AI is it's going to need a lot fewer in terms of programmers. He's like, all right, well, I guess we'll just do some murders.
Yeah. Bold moves.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, well, and then, what's the market going to do? They're like, I love it. That's great.